This is the Town and Community Committee, Tuesday the 18th of June. And just to do the disclaimer for YouTube, this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Biddulph Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our local community in democracy. By being in this council chamber, you consenting to being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. Images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Biddulph Town Council. Please view the guidance on recording in public meetings policy if you want any more information. So first on the agenda is apologies. Have we received any apologies?
It's just Councillor Hopkins.
And item 12, declarations of interest, any disclosable pecuniary interests and dispensations or any other interests. Item 13 is minutes, and first item A, to sign the minutes of the Town and Community Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 21st of May. These have been through Town Council. Everyone happy for me to sign those?
Question. I appreciate you going through Town Council, and I was present at the last meeting. So if you've said that I wasn't, then that would be incorrect. And in fact, there's another councillor, which I saw earlier on, is of a similar position. But I don't want to hold up proceedings.
Councillor Dan's absent. He was.
Thank you for that.
Both show of hands are happy to accept with that amendment. And to receive the notes from the Environment and Climate Change Working Group held on Thursday, the 23rd of May.
Propose those.
Okay. Councillor Jackson. It's go through those.
Take them as read, if everyone's happy with that. Run through them.
Do you accept those as read? Yep. Item 14, to receive an update in relation to the Station Road bench project.
Yep, it's just a quick verbal update from me on this one, if that's okay. So those of you who've been down Station Road will know that the circle where the bench, or throne as it's being called in some circles, is being positioned has been dug out and it's got some Harris fencing around it. Put some signs up last week to say something exciting is coming. And if people want to be involved in making a mosaic tile, then they should contact the town hall for that. Just to let people know that there was something going on really there. So in terms of who has completed tiles so far, Kingsfield First School were absolutely first off marks. They have done their tiles, painted their tiles, they've been glazed, they're good to go. The same with Biddulph Community Zone. One lot of tiles has been fired from the kind of first community session that we had, which included some councillors. They need to be painted, but I think we're going to have another community session for anybody else who wants to do their tiles. We're trying to agree, which we will, it's just a matter of working around exams and teacher availability. We're agreeing 2 slots with some young people here at Biddulph High School and also at the Roaches. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of that really. And then we're going to do a session here on Friday the 28th of June, hopefully for the young people of the town who kind of hang around in the town. So we're going to provide some pizza, and Anthony from the youth zone is going to come down with their youth workers there and hopefully get some engagement and hopefully some buy-in to the project from those young people. So we'll have another kind of community council session here on Monday the 24th of June. The hope is that we can get the tiles all made as soon as, well, hopefully most of them within June, very early July, so they can be fired, as you then have to go through the process of colouring them and glazing them. Although Philip and his builder are going to start to put together the structure for the throne in the next couple of weeks. So I've had risk assessments, method statements, insurances as regards that. We've gone through the process with the Shared Prosperity team to, I've explained to them that we have had to make a payment to Philip already, which will be classed as then our contribution to the project and not part of the eligible cost that we can receive back through the Shared Prosperity Fund. But that's, we are required to make a contribution to the project anyway. And they are happy that we haven't gone through a kind of formal tender process with regards to this because of the fact that it's an artistic project, a specialist, and obviously Philip has a very particular style, which we couldn't create a tender based on that. So they're happy with that process. So I think Philip's happy enough that we should, he'll have it done during August.
Has a decision been made on the orientation of where the suit's going to be facing, or?
Yeah, we've gone and stood and looked at where the sun comes and goes, to be honest. So
It's been a rare day when that.
well, it was a bit, yeah. So we've decided that it will face the garden area as it is. So it looks as though it will have its back to the bypass, but it will face the garden. Obviously, we know that we've got other stages in mind as regards the kind of creation of additional circles. So you'll be able to sit and look out at the garden towards the Methodist church. And actually the back of it will be beautiful. It will be covered in tiles, so it won't be an eyesore to anybody who's looking at that. We haven't quite thought yet. We've spoken about an interpretation board, so we're getting some quotes together for interpretation boards at the moment, and that will come to you at finance next week, because there's a few places where we need to put those around the town. We need to develop a style for that, really, and then when we put in those in for projects, then we've got a kind of town council style. Haven't decided where the interpretation board will go yet, but we'll bring that back to you for consideration. That can go in another time. One of the questions actually Philip asked me today is, do we want him to cover it up as he creates it, or do you want people to see it? Do you want it to be because we said we'd try and open it as part of the heritage fortnight, maybe classic car show day, and kind of get a lot of people there to have a look at it. But if it's been seen by everyone and sat on by everyone, it's not that exciting, is it?
The fence around it, yeah.
Yeah, cover it up. Fine, I'll tell him that. It's okay.
It just basically, obviously, a slightly selfish question, but it probably doesn't just apply to me. I have not been able to make the 2 sessions that happened. Is there going to be another one?
Can you do the 24th?
This one.
Yeah, yeah.
4:30 then.
Yeah, 4:30. Philip will be here from 3. If not, we'll slot you into one of the others. But yeah, if you're happy with that, I'll send out some dates. I mean, if there's some spillover, then so be it. We'll just keep it.
Yeah, just wondering, can I make a tile?
Yeah, what's this?
Yeah.
What station?
Yeah, I've made one. I used to make ceramic Christmas decorations.
You really?
You also make
Well, it's fine.
Oh, it's
No.
extent of your talents and no bounds, councillor.
But nobody, I'll try and remember one for you next
Oh,
time.
thank you. I
I
appreciate
used to make salt dough handprints for my Christmas tree as well.
It is a really nice process to go through, actually. I've got a lovely photo of like carvings at one end, and there are probably 3 other people sat next to you. Everybody really concentrating. It's very hard to get the detail in there. Yeah. Absolutely lovely.
James.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not on this committee, you know. I was just thinking as regard the orientation, and I'm saying this with Tom and William Cheek. Wouldn't it be nice if it could look at the fountain as well, wouldn't it?
Well, what if they were there, wouldn't it?
Don't need any further comment, but if you've got any information, I'd love to know.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay.
Can I just, I don't know, I think it's because I'm used to the chair sitting there, you know.
Not a move.
Can I declare an interest when I say this? But given that Mum's brownies look out onto that, and I've done for 30 years. If you've not contacted mum, could you give her a shout and see if her brownies want to make some?
Yeah, if I may, so what we were going to do as part of the kind of community session was, I think, Veronica and Yan Yan at the Methodist Church, they'd expressed an interest, so I was going to ask them to just have as many people as possible there, because it doesn't need to be just councillors. The Historical Society have made some tiles as well, and I think people kind of from different agencies should get involved.
On that 28th of June, she'd be having brownies that night, so there's no reason why the brownies couldn't come here. She's only got about 6.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Yes, but I'll let you communicate.
Have pizza with us, that's a lovely idea. May I just make a point about CCTV? I haven't yet had a response from the district council. I'm going, I think, to approach the commissioner, police commissioner for Staffsmorelands, and see if he has a view. But when we went down the other day to talk about the orientation of the bench, somebody has smashed all the lights that are set into the ground in one of those circles, which is really disappointing. So they'll have to be replaced at some point. I'm not proposing to you that we do that now, but they'll have to be replaced. I do think, given the lack of information from the district council, that we are going to have to think about installing something of our own as a deterrent in that area. And I know previous discussions you've had about, you know, whether or not that will be effective or not, but there is currently no deterrent down there, which is why that sort of behaviour goes on.
That vandalism been reported, sorry.
Yeah, but with no images, with no time when it happened, no witnesses, no nothing.
It's unusual, isn't it? No witnesses.
Does anyone else want to speak on this bench?
Yeah, just a quick query for me. The bench, is it being cemented in, concreted in, or because last time we had, no, don't tell me, but we had it was screwed in, wasn't it, with nut and bolt, and some built, person removed the nuts.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
just don't want that to repeat itself.
No, it'll be set into the ground, concreted in.
So moving on from that item then, item 14 to receive, item 15, the Christmas activities, to consider a Christmas light switch on event to be funded from the earmarked reserves.
It's really tiny print, so I'm sorry about this, but I've done you a breakdown of all the costs associated with Christmas last year. And when you set the budget, because we are so lean with our budget setting now, to take any additional spend or activities at the events, we have to use our savings for that. A nice use of our savings for community activities and brighten up everyone's Christmases. But these are the figures I've just pulled from our finance system to just show you where the bulk of our funding went from. So if we are going to have a Christmas light switch on, and we'll need you to approve that that comes from earmarked reserves, please, because there are quite significant costs associated with that. Obviously, in providing free activities for people who attend the event, we do obviously incur a cost for that. Quite a number of those figures are to do with that. You want any more information necessarily on that, but it's essentially how we're at that point in the year when we're talking about Christmas things. We're submitting applications to E.ON so that we can use power from those from their lights for our lights, and we hang things over the highway, so there's lots of hoops to jump through. So we're at that time of year, so we like to start to think about what Christmas looks like.
Councillor Rogers, then Councillor Garvey.
Thank you, Chair. I've got to leave at 7 and 4, so I'm in the fire brigade to put the buntings up, but I wanted to just speak on this before I went. With working with the electricians for many years on the Christmas lights, unfortunately, our lights are getting past the sell-by date. What's actually happening to them? The street lights that we put up every year, the rubber seals are perishing, which are letting water in. And the disadvantage of LED lighting, even though we've got a massive advantage of LED lighting, the disadvantage is there's no heat generated with LED bulbs. So the water gets into the units and corroding the units away slowly. So there's quite a lot of the street lights are getting very tired. I'm not saying replace them all this year, but I think we need to start replacing sections each year Or else we're going to end up with no lights and a massive bill if we don't consider that at this point in time. So that's the basics of it. Even if I have a different type of light, which I'd like to see, to be quite honest, but not all in one hit. If we can do it in sections. Thank you, Chair.
So Godfrey?
Thank you, Chair. I was just really clarifying the funding that we're allocating to the reserve from earmarked reserves. That's just the second block of costs on here.
That's what
The smaller of the significantly smaller of the two figures or three figures or two figures. Okay, yeah, thank you. So the top figure is already budgeted for.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all. Just clarifying. That was all. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Potts.
Yeah, I think this goes on from what Wayne has just said, actually. Looking at that cost of 22,000 for just the lights, is that amount as high as it is because the lights are old and therefore requiring more money spent on them? Therefore, is it quite right what Councillor Rogers said, that actually the more cost-effective way is at some point these things are just going to be cost too much to keep them going than it would be to actually pick out some new ones?
If I just come back, I mean, electricians, they check them several times over the Christmas period, and most of them, when they take a bulb out, it's wringing wet inside because the rubber seals are perishing. And say that's the disadvantage. There's no heat in that LED bulb to dry the unit out. So they're on the last legs. It's as simple as that.
That's why costs are as high as they are.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sorry to say, but they are many, many years old. Really. The strings are not the bulbs, but the actual electrical connections are very old, really, nowadays.
Councillor Jones and Councillor Ridley.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair, for letting me speak. I appreciate what support we get in Biddulphmore, but very, very tiny part of this is the Biddulphmore cost, as far as I can see. And I was just wondering, given that the village hall at Biddulphmore have taken over the bulk of the event, obviously we'll still provide the tree, we'll still close the road and all the rest of it for the switch on. If some consideration could be given to perhaps making a donation towards that, because as I say, Biddulphmore get a very, very tiny little bit of this, and I think would be quite nice if we could make a donation to, or some assistance to the village hall. Some was given to the pub last year. I hope that can be repeated. But if we can at some point give some consideration to a little bit of funding to help them with the event at the village hall, that would be most appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
Let's propose that as.
I think £1,000 wouldn't be out of order. Thank you.
Someone else will have to propose it, actually, not on this committee, are you?
I'm not on the committee, so I can't propose it.
Sorry, Chair, do you want to, should we see what they're planning on doing first? Because
Yeah.
we'll talk about Christmas a lot before Christmas.
Okay, well, if I can go and say, if you don't mind through the chair, if I can go, I'm having a meeting with Tony Dyche from the village hall soon. If I can say that there's a possibility of some funding from Bill to help you, tell us what you're going to do, then that probably would suffice for now, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Ridley.
Yeah, it was following on from Wayne, really, if we could get some sort of cost analysis.
They'll be writing, it's broken.
Oh, well. Yes, if we could just get some sort of costing for what Wayne was suggesting for a section to be replaced, rather than just keep bodging them year on year out. If we can get a costing of what the differential would be from 22,000.
I think that's sound sense.
If parts of it are failing, like you say, it just makes sense to explore costs and.
Yeah.
Those, and then bring them back to.
So I need to email all the Eon paperwork to the Christmas lights provider. So the issue we have is that because all our buildings are quite low, we can't hang anything really across the highway. So we either have to have the strings of bulbs, which we've always had for years, or we could ask him about having kind of lamppost fixings. And that's different boxes to tick for Eon. So we'll have to have a look at what that involves. But potentially we could have a conversation about that, about whether there's some quite nice things that you attach to lampposts, aren't they? You know, sort of.
Yeah.
bicycle stars, I don't know, something like that. Perhaps have a look at that.
Councillor Salt, Councillor Rogers, and then Councillor Harper.
So my questions, couple of questions, just to be clear. So are we asking earmark reserves of 6,288? Is that what we're asking for from earmark reserves?
That's last year's cost, so I would think this year will be comparable.
Yeah. So we're asking for £7,000. So that'd go to finance, wouldn't it? If we make that recommendation at this committee, it'd be approved at finance.
Yeah, it can be, or we can put an item directly onto town council.
Okay.
It's up to you.
So that's that then. We have had conversations in finance, which is why I'm mentioning this now, about dipping into reserves. And I think if we're going to consider purchasing Christmas lights to replace the ones that we've got aside from that figure that we've just talked about, that needs to be factored into council tax. If it's going to be something that we're going to do every year, year on year, I'm not sure it's something that we can take out of earmarked reserves, because I don't think that's what it's for, but that's a conversation for a different committee. But that's something we need to consider and be willing to stand up and defend when or if council tax needs to increase. So that's that. I'm quite happy to propose £7,000 from earmarked reserves, but what I would say is the fact that we've said that we're providing a lot of free activities. The reason we're doing that is because we're living in this poor economic climate at the minute and people are struggling. And we've already allocated a budget to help people that are struggling, and therefore which budget should that be coming out of? Should it be the Biddle Works Together budget? Do you know, I know it's going to come towards Christmas costs, but in actual fact, the reason why we're doing it is because we're living in the environment in which we do. So where should it come from? Who should be asking? Just for clarity, I think, for the reason that we're doing it. And the second thing is, and I know it's not a lot of money, so I don't even know why I'm saying it, but the Christmas toy appeals down here for £9.16, but that should come out of that other budget as well, not this one.
Yeah, I just pulled all the costs
Yeah.
associated with Christmas stuff.
Yeah, but I'd support £7,000 out of earmarked reserves. But moving forward, when we plan financially, hopefully we won't be in this climate forever. But perhaps that the stuff that if we could factor out the stuff that we're doing for free, so people can access the events, we should be asking that from the Biddle Works Together budget, really, because it's for a different reason. That's just me musing.
Bring Councillor Rogers in, so Mr. Ware's got to go.
Yeah, a lot's been said, but I was going to say, I propose in principle that we help Biddlefmore out and sort of figures out at a later date. But most of the other things I was going to say has been covered anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harper.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I can speak to Wayne directly, with this problem of these lights scoring, is there a fire risk at all, a danger risk to the public?
No, I shouldn't have thought it was a fire risk, to be quite honest, because there's earth leakage strips all around the town, which go regular. And some fool checks them every day over the Christmas period and resets them most days over the Christmas period.
So there's no risk to the public?
No, so if there's any issues, it knocks that section out. And when you come to reset them, it doesn't reset straight away. It'll click several times. Then they will reset. And there's certain sections that don't give any issue at all. But there's other sections, most days have to be reset.
Yeah.
So it gets a bit frustrating, really. I can always tell when we've had a wet night, they won't come on the following day. If it's been dry overnight, they normally work the following day.
Through the chair, it seems to me that a lot of this is past its shallow date.
Well, yeah, I dread to think how old the length of cable is. The bulbs aren't that old, the screw-in bulbs, but the fittings are very old. I dread to think how old they are. Teens of years must be now, at least.
I mean, when Ian's told us that we absolutely have to replace the festoons, we really do. So some of them will be newer than others.
Yeah, some are newer than others, what I'm saying. It isn't every section wants to be hit in one go. But ultimately, the old-fashioned fittings, really, and they need to be updated, but not overnight, not on 1 year. But we should do a section a year till we get them replaced, really.
How many sections are we looking at then? At what time periods?
There's 6 sections for them around the town.
Are you saying it would take us 6 years if we did it the way you?
Yeah, if you do it that way, yeah, possibly 5 or 6 years.
Do we want to look at, obviously as a resolution to the light issues for Sarah to go and explore the cost of
If you get some costings and
things?
yeah, it was Ian from Protect that said last year, you really need some new lighting for next year. We're struggling with these.
Yeah.
And he knows which the worst ones are. Hmm.
Councillor Yates, Councillor Garvey.
Yes, I'm a little bit concerned that it's the end of June. It doesn't give you much sort of chance really to really dig down and decide what you need and what you want for the future, because the string lights are not the most dynamic lights in comparison to other towns and things. I mean, they're very nice, but you know, we could do things differently. And so certainly LED lighting design has given so much more scope for shapes and things, and it's very lightweight for putting onto lampposts and things, whereas the old type of designs were a lot heavier and things. You know, low voltage means you can do things which you couldn't physically do with the old style of lights. And the new lights, all the new lights would be IP65 straight away anyway, which are silicon sealed, and you wouldn't have the problem with perishings, you know. So there's lots we could do. I mean, I've seen villages and towns. I think Ashbourne is a case in point where they have Christmas trees on a post outside each shop. Now, okay, there's issues about finding that, but you know, that is a lot more three-dimensional than relatively dark strings, as nice as they are and as laudable as they are. I don't want to knock them, but what I'm saying is that if we've got time, it gives us the opportunity to revisit and go forward. I really think that it may be a case of having a holding position this year, because I don't think 6 months is enough when you think you've got to work backwards from when you definitely need them and get permissions off councils for using, you know, for putting them on street lights, getting permissions off shops for potentially putting something on a hanger over the top of their shop, an example. I think this is the discovery. To me, it's the minimum position to get through this year sensibly and safely. And then we sit down in January about saying, right, let's really set ourselves some new, because the other thing about the modern lights, they are much, much cheaper than the old lights, to be perfectly honest, scale for scale. I mean, I've called something up here, you know, which happens to be a commercial lighting supplier, and there are many, christmasdirect.co.uk, and what you can see on the pictures, which are commercial decorations, are absolutely fantastic, and they're not particularly expensive. You know, and it doesn't take much to find them, but working backwards and getting approvals, we could put the Christmas lights up in March if we want to do something different. We wouldn't be able to do it before, I don't think.
But just as far as the lights, I think we need to maybe defer that to the Christmas lights. Do you think, for a bit more discussion on what we want to do with the lights going forward?
If I may, Ian knows very well what will work in our town and what he's seen and what's cost effective and what, you know, has a kind of longevity. We don't want to go on something this year and then having to replace it again next, do we? So he's kind of the expert in that. So I thought if in principle we are okay with looking at replacement lights, I'll go to him and say, what's your recommendation as regards this? So we've got time to put in the relevant approvals through Eon. I'm not too concerned about that. And we've got time to have discussions with the Finance Committee to approve the costs associated with that if it is that you want to invest in that this year. So as I say, if you're in favour in principle of looking at replacement lights, I'll ask that question then. Asking for his staged approach and how we might make that work.
So Councillor Garvey, Councillor Jackson, and then Councillor Rogers. Have you got time?
I'll go in a second. I go.
I believe Councillor Rogers made a proposal that if we fund something on Biddlesmore, I'm just going to second that proposal as proposed it before he leaves.
Okay.
We want to vote on that before he leaves.
I'll just make a very quick comment before I go. Gotta go, sorry, Chair. About putting stuff on the lights in the town. I love that idea, but can we get away with it? Because a few years ago, hanging baskets had to be removed off all the lights. So you cannot put anything on these lights. But if we can put something on the lights, they'd be lovely. If we could get away with that. But I've got to go make 5K now. Okay.
I was getting away with it, no.
I think what we'd agreed about the Biddlesmore is that when we talked in more detail about funding, and we fund in the pubs and different things that we do, that we'd look at that and put that into consideration for Biddlesmore.
In principle that we support that.
Sorry, Councillor Jackson and Councillor.
Yeah, might be barking up the wrong tree here, but I don't know whether it's possible. And can we not have a scan through shared prosperity funds to see if there's any leeway in that fund? Because they'll be looking, I'm feeling
Just
very,
saying.
very sure, looking to how much money's going back to central government. So I'm just wondering whether there's any way, and if we need to replace the hub, you know, the whole lot, whether there's an angle into that. Creative writing, to put a bit into that to see if that's a possibility, and we could possibly renew the whole thing in one hit.
As things
I
stand.
don't know whether this would be allowed, I don't know, but.
No, as things stand at the moment, there's only one pot that's open to us, and I've just made an application to that. So the other pots are for town centre businesses or community enterprises, and we're not eligible for community enterprise. I think, I mean, it's obviously for another
Yeah, I know,
conversation.
but I was thinking time wise.
Yeah, I think,
If we get the bid in, if not for this Christmas,
there's just no mechanism to do that, though. It's all online forms, and you have to apply within the right category for that. Councillor Smith and I spoke today about the potential for, you know, after the summer, pulling together a really big list of all the projects that we've worked up and we're ready to go with, and we could deliver before the end of March. Because my guess is, because no one's told me otherwise, that there are pots of money where they'll struggle to spend them. But we don't know that, and there's no mechanism for applying for funding through the website. No, I agree with you. I think that's the sort of thing. I wonder whether there are pots of money, grant funding available, where we could say we want to provide free activities for people at Christmas lights, which are maybe those elements of the Christmas lights, which could be funded through cost of living grants as well. So I think all of these things are possible. I don't know about shared prosperity. I've done what I can with that for now.
Councillor Yates, and then we'll look at just
Yes,
discussing the earmark reserves.
yeah, three things. One is, I think the lamppost issue with hanging baskets is different because hanging baskets are quite heavy and they retain water, and water's incredibly heavy. I don't think Christmas lights, especially the more with LED bulbs, are very heavy at all. You know, it's making sure they're anchored properly, which would be the issue. I do think there's potential scope for the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. I think we should leave that in the back of his mind, because I specifically asked, knowing we're coming to the end of it and knowing there's no incentive to return any to central government, I've asked for a residual list of where we're going to struggle to spend, and we are being very flexible with stretching the framework. So I think if we do have a list of things, perhaps we should have that vetted by the officer concerned, who's proved brilliant at finding holes before we actually go through whatever hoops we have to go through and we put a formal announcement. And I do think if we are looking to change something, which I would struggle to think we could do too much this year, is perhaps what we should do is go and do some visits to local towns to see what is different in local towns and what they've got and how they appear. Because there's some fantastic displays around. I'm looking as far as Nantwich and obviously Congleton, Macclesfield do things a little bit differently and whatever. And I think it'd be worth spending the day just looking around and saying what they do, how they hang them, where they position them, if they're dependent on businesses, and perhaps even have a walk around with our events manager to see how they manage to get these things through the hoops of regulations. And to say that on the back of just coming back from South Staffordshire District Council's headquarters, where we've had a walk through with their assets officer, and they built a brand new effectively council building, which is a complete community hub, and he's walked through the process of how you get everybody engaged and everybody together, and they picked ideas and things off. So we could do that with the Christmas lights.
So just on the Christmas lights then, so I was going to take advice from Protec about their recommendations and go from there and start getting some costs together. On the agenda item, to consider the events we funded from earmark reserves, we've had a proposal from Councillor Salt for £7,000, which is looking to be fairly equivalent to last year, to come out of the earmark reserves. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Garvey, are we all happy with £7,000 from earmark? And then the second part of that item, to consider a specification for additional lamps around the town hall.
it's part of that other conversation. I think that's, so last year, all of those additional lamps that we bought previously had failed, so we just had the normal white lamps around it. So hopefully our changes will be made to the town hall frontage this year, so it kind of felt like it was appropriate to do something really lovely. Town hall. So if you're happy, when I ask the questions of the contractor, I'll ask him about something, because actually we've got no height issues with bits. So I'll ask him what options that are available to us there.
So item 16 to receive a verbal update on 2024 events.
Okay, so we'll tag team this like we usually do. Been really busy so far. Before we feel the urge to sit in a dark room, we've got a couple of months left to go with busyness. So the prayer breakfast on the 27th of June, people booking in via Eventbrite. I suspect there are those who are just going to turn up as well. So we've got.
Sorry, we lost the screen.
No, I know, it's a wobble.
Station Road there that you just.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Had a pizza.
yeah. Yes, so prayer breakfast 27th, youth consultation on Station Road is the 28th with pizza, and then there's an civics on the 30th. Then July brings us another bonkers month. For those of you who perhaps haven't been that close to the Biddle Festival before, we run our own events throughout the Biddle Festival, but we are also responsible for the launch day parade. So at the point that the parade is over and done with and it turns into Biddle by the Sea, that then becomes the festival committee and we'll go home, which is lovely. But we're responsible for the launch day parade and the young people who move through the town centre dressed as all things wild. 180 people so far. That's really lovely. So that's on Saturday the 6th. So anybody who feels like coming and donning a high vis, do some marshalling on that day, and that would be marvellous. In July, mental health training starts. That's going really well. Because of all the activities we've got going on in May, we moved the day, the tea with the town council. So we usually do one of those in May around the time of the annual town meeting. And obviously we had our 50th anniversary event this year. So we're proposing, and I'll put this in an email to you, to have a tea with the town council on the 9th of July, which is town council night, and just kind of offer some tea and cake downstairs and the opportunity, if you're available, for people to come in and talk to them. The Northern Soul Night on the 20th of July is now sold out. So that is going to be a marvellous event. Sold out. As part of our Biddle Festival offer, we have a family film on the 25th. And then in July somewhere, we're going to try and fit in a consultation for arts groups in Biddle. So that's something that we've talked about before. Obviously, we lost our arts forum. The funding that used to go to them went to the outside project. And that means that existing established arts groups haven't really had a mechanism for getting together. There's a new arts and culture strategy that's being consulted on by the district council. So we're going to invite we have invited the officer who's leading on that and have an arts consultation with some of our groups here. We talked about doing that as a kind of pie and piece of anything. September Classic Vehicle Show on the 14th. We think that's on the stand at the moment, everything being well, that will also be the opening of the bench. In September as well, we'll also have, hopefully, again, all things being well, the opening of the lanterns. Got a date for that yet, but we'll kind of see how that goes on. We have been proposing to do a mayoral awards in September, so we need to have a conversation about how we make that work. And we've got a health and wellbeing fair tentatively planned for the 19th of October, which we work with social prescribers on, and we'll try and put a business breakfast in October as well.
That's in July as well. Is it our event?
Yeah, I missed the last off by accident, but you've got the kilo events. The pre-love ladies.
Yes.
That was very unfortunate branding. It literally said the pre-love ladies clothes, I think.
Right.
They just said it's a pre-love ladies.
So my wife would probably be applying for that.
I thought it was a dating agency.
Sold out as well.
So one of the things that we'd put for our environmental aims was to try and, you know, the circular economy of clothing and things like that. So it's £2 for a big reusable bag and you can come in and fill it full of clothing, not ladies. So unless they're really short. You might pick one of them and they're gonna bag for life.
And they are.
Yes.
I did want,
No.
this one, we do things that's right. We do, they're coming twice. So the pre-love ladies is in July, but they're coming back before Christmas.
Yeah, they'll be back with the trills.
I thought it was a tribute band.
Love ladies. A good name for a band, that. Lovely.
I've got a couple of requests. Can we have a send film thing, maybe in October half term? So it doesn't matter, yeah, it doesn't matter if the kids are running around or, you know, they're not sitting still. But when we had just had a little send group meeting for interested parties the other day, and I'd noticed we've got sort of dementia friendly film club and that kind of thing, but I thought we need something specific for send children. So if we could fit that in, that'd be fabulous.
No problem.
Or maybe one day in summer holidays, yeah. And then the second thing is, regarding the arts consultation, if we can make sure that Biddulph and Arms are represented, because they did receive funding from the Shared Prosperity Fund, and a lot of their gigs earlier this year were sponsored by the Shared Prosperity Fund, and I think they did receive a good few £1,000s, and they were one of the only organisations in Biddulph that got something for that first tranche. So definitely get Nick if he can come there, because he'll have some, and I think he literally filled, I think I messaged him about apply for this the night before the application had to be in, and he got, I'm sure it's not far off £10,000, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. That sounds like a good option. We haven't also put in that, so then back in August, so July is full of all sorts of festival stuff. August we'll have our Friday night. Friday, what do we call it? Biddulph Scratch. Biddulph Scratch is back.
Yeah, that'd be August and September, October and November.
And
Yeah,
Christmas.
Yeah, the only month we're not doing it is July because the festival stuff.
Just for the clothing thing as well, they did a pre-loved prom dress thing in Congleton, which might be, if they have capacity, to maybe look at for next year, just as a.
We're hoping people come along to that because the concept is really lovely. It costs nothing, does it, for a big bag of clothes?
Yeah.
And if it's really well supported, I think they'll just factor us into their, you know, their calendar, and they'll just keep coming.
We'll form part of their rounds of town halls that they go around to.
Yeah, just a little point on the send film thing. If you can contact, and I will give you the contact details probably of Holly, but I'm conscious that whilst the town council might put it on, we perhaps haven't got the knowledge of send children that somebody who actually has. So if we can contact Holly and ask her what their needs need to be, yeah, great.
Contact the
Film hub.
again, because they were looking at like this send cinema.
Oh, right, okay.
Where you do sort of interactive things during the film, so.
Like soft play options as well.
Yeah, so they've got, yeah, so if say the film's at Ice Age, then there's ice play and things like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
One of the things they did mention in this, which is when we start really planning for the Christmas light switch on, is whether or not this could be opened up for the children to be able to view from up here, a quieter area. For those that might be too overwhelmed by the sounds and things, I wondered whether we could open that up to, you know, Biddulph by the Sea and stuff like that as well, a quieter area where they can still see what's going on, but it's a bit less stimulating.
Yeah, we perhaps can't do it for Biddulph by the Sea because it's not our event, so the town hall's not open for that. But absolutely, I think for Christmas we can make that work, can't we? Provide some, or whatever they need in here, seating, you know, quiet areas, drinks, whatever.
Maybe even Santa in here as well.
Yeah, perhaps he could pop up after he's finished downstairs. Yeah, okay.
Councillor Park.
Yeah, delighted to hear that the mental health training is, you've got a proper smile on your face, you're not fibbing. Is that for both the July and September?
Yeah.
Yeah, so September the 21st is the busiest session so far, but the others are.
It seems to have got out there quite well on socials, and thanks to all the councillors that have kind of shared it out there, because I know people have sort of been asking and approaching. Just on an organisational issue, once full, can I have names? Because I've got to register those names, that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Yates.
Yes, are you moving on to another page which has got November on?
No,
I was just saying, just
wait for me to do that.
if you can just confirm that the 1st and 2nd of November, which is Friday and Saturday night, are earmarked for a jazz and blues weekend, because I want to get that organised now. That's just one of the things I want to sort of square up. That's going to be organised by the Leek Jazz and Blues committee, so they've got quite a few acts, and that's not particularly expensive. And I think they've got a little bit of UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which they had as a grant, basically to spread it out around the district. I know they spent some money on Cheadle, so we want them to come here. And I'm ideally, not wanting to speak out of turn, but looking at effectively running it on 3 venues, which is the main stage downstairs, and then obviously a couple of the drinking establishments, if we can get that coordinated. But I just want to fire this email off, which prepared now, which basically says, can we firm up something for 3 venues simultaneously in Biddle to the 2 organisers? Just want to confirm those 2 dates, so that's okay.
Well, we'll have to have a conversation about that, because the 1st is supposed to be Biddle Scratch, isn't it?
We've got to double book it.
That's the sin.
We'd say
This Friday. We'll have that conversation outside of here. It's fine. The purpose of this agenda item is just to tell you what we're working on at the moment, but we can. It depends whether you don't want to do the cinema or not.
Councillor Garvey.
Just throw a few things in that obviously outside the official town council remit. The yarn bombing will be going up later this week and next week and the coming weekend. The event, the craft art and textile event, the history wardrobe event in the evening is now sold out. But we're trying to encourage as many people as we can in for the free art and craft event downstairs. The beer festival, obviously, that's the back end of the that's the back end of the Biddle Festival.
Yeah, I should mention actually, we're working with Anthony from the Youth Zone on an over 30s disco.
That's still for you.
Know where that came from?
Yeah.
eligible for that, then I'm over 30.
So there's a particular place in Congleton. I was having a chat with Anthony that they do an over 30s club night.
But it starts at like 4
In the afternoon, and it's done by 8:30, 9.
So you can have a sleep after.
Yeah.
Over 30.
So well, at the moment, that's looking as though that'll be the end of August bank holiday weekend. So it'll form part of the festival, and he'll advertise it as part of that, but it will be at the end of August.
Is that the lot up to October?
Yeah.
Wonderful. If no one else would like to talk.